Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to today's TechGig webinar on addressing India's cybersecurity skill gap. I'm your host, Khushi, and I'm delighted to have you all with us today. As India continues its rapid digital transformation and strives to become a global digital powerhouse, we are also witnessing a parallel rise in cyber threats. However, a significant shortage of skilled cybersecurity professionals is now emerging as a major barrier not just to business resilience, but to national security itself. So in today's session, we'll delve into the reasons behind this talent gap, including how technological advancement has outpaced workforce development and the need for standardized training and evaluation frameworks. We'll also explore the broader impact from data privacy concerns and financial losses to the underutilization of technologies like AI and machine learning in cyber defense. Most importantly, our expert speaker will share strategies to bridge this gap, such as strengthening industry academia partnerships and investing in upskilling and reskilling initiatives to build a resilient cybersecurity workforce. This session is especially relevant for cybersecurity professionals, developers, and aspiring security experts. So, without further delay, let's welcome our distinguished speaker for today's session. To facilitate today's session, folks, please join me in welcoming Mr. Kunal Ruvala, who is currently the Senior Vice President and General Manager, India at Palo Alto Networks. He leads the India Development Center at Palo Alto Networks, the company's second largest global hub. With deep expertise across cybersecurity, data protection, and enterprise technologies, he oversees key product engineering for the network security portfolio and drives strategic growth initiatives in the region. Prior to Palo Alto Networks, he held leadership roles at Honeywell, Dell, RSS Security, and EMC. He also holds an MBA from Northeastern University and an MS in Electrical Engineering from Penn State. Kunal, it's such a pleasure having you here with me today.
Thank you, Kushi. Good afternoon, everyone. So first of all,
so this session is scheduled for 1 hour, and the first 45 minutes will feature insights and presentations from our guest speaker, and the final 15 minutes will be open for Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions anytime in the Q&A window. So now let's get started. Over to you, Kunal.
So good afternoon, everyone. First of all, a very, very big thank you to you, Kushi, and the TechGig team for inviting me to this session. And once again, thank you, everyone, for joining this session today. I'm truly excited to be here because this is a conversation that I believe is urgent, relevant, and very close to my heart. It's about India's need for enhanced cybersecurity skills and what we as a community can do for it. Now, I've had the privilege of being part of India's technology evolution over the last nearly 2 decades. I've watched organizations grow from being back offices to being global innovation hubs. And I've witnessed Indian engineers shifting from being developers or just plain coders to being strategic thinkers, innovators, builders. And in this period, India has emerged as a tech epicenter for the world. You know, many years ago, when we used to sit in these boardroom conversations or have discussions with peers and colleagues, we were often met with polite nods or cautious optimism when it was talked about India's digital future. But today, I think it's a totally different day and age for us. If you take an example of just travel, you have a completely frictionless travel experience now. Online ticketing, aggregator taxis on your way to the airport, contactless or frictionless entry into the airports through DigiYatra, or an automated flight check-in system, automated bag drops, mobile-based tracking of your baggage once it's checked in. If you go to the coffee shops at the airports, they know what your preferred drink is, and there's a cashless and contactless payment option that's available at these airports. You can even pre-program your entertainment choices when you're getting on the plane. There are flight trackers that are online. And you have a similar experience when you disembark or when you're at the arrival site. If you're traveling international, you may even have a driverless taxi that takes you to the hotel. This is not the future, this is today. And in India, we're at an incredible inflection point in our history where we're seeing this massive digitization across all things that we do. We're very quickly marching towards being a developed nation by 2047, 100 years from our independence. We're talking about being a $5 trillion economy in the near future. And projections are that we're going to outpace that growth and become the third largest economy very, very soon, well before that milestone arrives. Now, this dream isn't built on roads and buildings and physical infrastructure that people have talked about. It's built on the digital infrastructure. It's built on data-driven systems. It's built on AI technologies that are empowered and are making decisions. It's built on connected citizens. This is the change and this is the transformation that we're seeing in India. And as we become more and more digital, there will be more need for cybersecurity in what we do. And that's the crux of today's conversation that I would love to have with you. Who is going to protect all of this? Where are the cyber defenders for this $1 trillion digital economy that we're building going to come from? Let's unpack that a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the scale of the gap that we have, what's causing this gap, what are some of the things that we need to do as the government, the academia, the industry to come together to solve some of these challenges that we're going to see. Because without the cybersecurity skilled talent that we need, we risk jeopardizing or leaving our entire digital economy exposed. Before I go too deep into this conversation on cybersecurity, let's take a step back a little bit and think about the bigger picture of India being at the center stage of a digital transformation, unlike something that we've ever seen before. With nearly 1 billion internet users or 650 million plus smartphones, digital connectivity isn't growing, it's exploding. We're not just a tech-enabled country anymore, we're becoming a tech-driven economy. And this is where I want to hear from you. What do you believe is the biggest force that is shaping our digital destiny? We've tried to create a poll, and I would love for you to respond to the poll. So, Khushi, if I may request you to publish the poll for the audience, please.
So all attendees are requested to give your views and vote as per your preference. And we'll have this poll for the next 45 seconds. So vote as soon as possible.
Thank you very much, Khushi. And while we're waiting for the audience to cast their poll, I do want to talk a little bit about what the impact of each one of these tech trends is and how it is really and truly shaping the digitization that we're undertaking. I think we'll give people a few more seconds.
So I'll be closing the poll in the next 10 seconds. All those who are left to yet vote, please do that as soon as possible.
Thank you.
With the results.
All right. Thank you, Khushi. I see a good representation across each one of these options that we've provided. Now, quite frankly, if I can just turn over to my slides again and walk you through what each one of these trends is, honestly, there's no wrong answer to this question. There are different opinions, there are different views, and there are different challenges that we see. But each one of these answers is true. If you think about the digital infrastructure, from affordable smartphones to 5G connectivity to the rollout of fiber connectivity across rural areas, we have created a bedrock of digital connectivity. Without this, nothing else would work. Think about this as almost the highway of systems for the digital India that we're building. If you look at option number 2, which was talking about the digital platforms in fintech, now this includes things such as digital commerce, ONDC, Aadhaar stack. All of this is nearly contributing to about 11% of our GDP. We've made finance identity portable. As a result, we've made it more accessible. We've made it more real-time. And that is driving financial inclusion for the entire country. If you think about advanced technologies, India is aiming to be a $1 trillion digital economy in the near future. AI alone can boost our GDP by up to $500 billion by 2035. And we're not just consuming tech anymore, we're building it, we're creating it. Finally, and I saw that the audience poll gave a very high percentage of responses to skilling and digital literacy. That is absolutely true as well. None of the above 3 would be possible if we don't have the people who can build it. scale it, and secure it. Cyber Surakshit Bharat, Digital Skills Hub, National Training Missions, all of these are steps in the right direction to help us get to that cybersecurity that we need. Now, let's also take a moment and talk a little bit about the appreciation that needs, or the acknowledgement that is required to see what is truly happening in India. India is no longer catching up. India is leading. We're witnessing what I believe is the most ambitious digital transformation that humankind has ever seen. With nearly 60% of our population that is connected, that is online, we're not a digital first country anymore. We're becoming a digital default country. And this digital boom in the tech stacks that we have is the envy of the world. Whether you think about Aadhaar, you think about UPI, you think about ONDC, you think about DigiLocker, all of this is working at population scale, like the rest of the world does not see. It's working real time. It's not just infrastructure, it's digital public infrastructure. And that is what is truly driving the economic empowerment for the country. But here's the hard truth. Every byte of this growth generates data. And every bit of the data that is generated requires protection. Let me take an example. In 2023, there were over 800 million Indians who had their COVID-19 data leaked. And these data points were threatened to be sold online by the hacker. And that's not just a breach, it was a wake-up call. And the reason I say that is the same digital highway that is powering UPI and Aadhaar is also carrying some of our most important personal information. The threats that we face are real. Phishing, ransomware attacks, large-scale data thefts, and all of these are evolving extremely quickly with the advances in technology. Let me ask you another question. Have you heard of ransomware as a service? Many people may not have, but not too long ago, if you wanted to build ransomware, you needed to be highly skilled, you needed to have technical depth, and you needed to have time to create ransomware attacks. Today, that's not the case. Bad actors need only two things today. They need money, and they need a bad intention. And if they have that, ransomware creation is available as a service. That's how easy it's becoming for bad actors to penetrate our secured infrastructure. So where's the good news? What is the good news? India is ramping up. From CERTIN, which is our National Cyber Emergency Response Agency, to the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which was passed recently, it gives individuals the rights to control their own data. So there are these policies that are coming up, but these policies and platforms aren't sufficient. We need people, we need skilled people, and that's where today's conversation begins. As we go on to the next one, I want to take one more poll. If we can ask Khushi to publish the poll, please. When you think about cyber attacks in India, and Khushi, if you don't mind publishing the poll while I frame the question. Thank you. When you think about cyber attacks in India, which sector do you feel is the most obvious target? And once again, I think we will have the poll up for about 30 seconds or so that each one of you can give some of your inputs in.
I'd request all the attendees to please vote and give us your views and opinions on this question, and we'll have it for the next 30 seconds.
Thank you. Okay, Khushi, if we're ready, we can maybe see the results.
Here we go with the results.
Once again. So banking and financials is the highest based on the results. Hospitality came in at 0%. Retail was at sub 10%, as was healthcare, and IT and communications was at about 15%. So once again, thank you, audience, for submitting your sort of responses. So we've got 5 major industries over here that is a pillar of our economy. Each one of these is becoming more and more digital by the day, but each one of these is vulnerable as well. There are indicators that the healthcare industry does see a large number of breaches, and there is a fair amount of attacks that go on in these spaces. But here's what's really important. While every one of these is vulnerable, and as India's digital economy accelerates, the attack surface is expanding. The attackers are getting faster, they're getting more sophisticated, and they're getting more automated. They're getting more advanced. This is where solutions that we need to provide to solve these challenges for our enterprises, for our companies, for individuals are critical. It also brings us to the heart of today's discussion, which is why skilled talent is so critical in protecting each one of these sectors. Let's talk a little bit about some of the breaches that have occurred in India over the recent past. There were 20 lakh cybersecurity incidents reported in 2024, more than 20 lakh cybersecurity incidents reported in 2024. Think about that for a minute. That's approximately 5,000 attacks a day, every single day. It's also an increase of nearly 30%, 28% year over year. And this growth in terms of the number of attacks that we're seeing is almost double of what we had seen in the previous years. We're not just seeing more attacks, they're evolving. These attacks are becoming smarter. These attacks are becoming faster. They're becoming more tech savvy. And if these go unchecked, experts warn that India could be facing up to 17 trillion with a T, cyber attacks annually by 2047. Recent insights from Palo Alto Networks also shows that AI is radically reshaping the world. What we see is AI is much more accessible than many other technology transformations that we've seen in our lifetimes. Adoption of AI has been significant. Access to AI is significant. The fact of the matter, though, is as AI is becoming so much more available, it is equally accessible to the bad actors as well as the protectors. Attackers now use AI to scale various forms of attacks, whether it be phishing attacks. They generate malware. They exploit LLMs. Cyber criminals have embraced AI, and they're not waiting for the regulators or ethical behavior to stop them. We're seeing a sharp rise in AI-powered or AI-driven attacks around the world. And these are highly personalized. They seem real. They're hard to detect. If you think about common attacks that people may have heard of, if you think about phishing, or if you think about malware morphing, or if you think about deep fakes, videos that are getting created, each one of these attacks is becoming more sophisticated. Each one of these attacks is looking more and more real. If you take an example of AI-generated phishing attacks, in the past, it was very common to see phishing attacks which had grammatical errors, which didn't look real, which was not easy, but you were able to spot when it was a phishing attack. With the use of these large language models, attackers are able to use AI to generate near perfect looking, grammar-proof phishing emails that are tailored to individuals. These are not these blanket emails that are going out to everyone, but they look like emails that are coming from your boss. They look like emails that are coming from your bank. They look like emails that might be coming from a booking site where you're trying to make a transaction. They're not generic anymore. It is more of social engineering than anything else, and it is at scale. If you think about malwares are morphing in real time. What that basically also means is that if you have these AI-allowed attackers to dynamically mutate these malware, and as a result, they evolve, and they don't look like the simple thing that you had seen before. And as a result, they're harder to detect. Deep fakes and video cloning is also becoming very, very common. AI-generated voice messages coming from the CEO of organizations, authorizing fraudulent transactions, or forcing people to take actions that they wouldn't otherwise aren't uncommon. Cyber criminals are targeting the knowledge gap that we have. These are urgent, and we need scale to protect against these threats that we're seeing. Now, to counter these bad actors, and while we talked about bad actors using AI, there's the good side of AI as well. And I personally am an optimist. I'm optimistic that AI-driven cybersecurity will accelerate detection and deliver the desired outcomes much more efficiently. If you think about elements of what a cybersecurity solution needs to provide, enhanced detection of these threats. The days where signature-based detection was enough are gone. AI can now detect unknown threats by spotting unusual behavior, not just based on patterns. This allows systems to respond a lot faster and identify even zero-day attacks. If you think about incident responses, AI drastically reduces the time between when the breach occurred and what actions need to be taken. There used to be thousands of these alerts that were coming in. AI can now be used to identify from all of these 1,000 alerts, correlate them, and come back with the root cause of the challenge that organizations are running into. And then AI can trigger immediate countermeasures, whether it be isolating an environment or an endpoint that might be causing a challenge, resolving a configuration challenge that might have occurred in the environment without having to wait for an analyst to take those actions. Behaviors are things that we can model, and we can spot anomalies if we're deviating from normal behaviors as well. And as AI becomes more prevalent, getting the baseline of what normal behavior is and then identifying what the anomalies from this normal behavior is becoming easier as well. Finally, there is something called as vulnerability management, which all of the companies or most companies run into challenges with. There are a lot of technologies that companies are deploying, and each one of these technologies may have some vulnerabilities. AI can help prioritize how you need to patch these vulnerabilities, how you need to identify the critical ones that might be exposed, that there might be threat intel on, that might be something that others have fallen prey to, and as a result, remediate these things. And finally, as a result of the use of AI and the use of the advanced security solutions that organizations are building, you can have a risk assessment. You can identify your entire infrastructure at scale, use AI to identify which things need to be prioritized, and then take the right decisions on how you optimize your deployments. So while I spoke about AI being used by bad actors to create more aggressive threats and more challenges, there's also AI that is being used to protect us from these challenges that are coming up. However, there is a gap. If you think about what the gap is in terms of the skills that are required to bridge the positions that are open, the World Economic Forum, for example, in 2023, stated that there was a gap of nearly 40,000 cybersecurity roles in India that went unfulfilled. Why did they go unfulfilled? Because we had lack of skilled professionals. Now, this is despite the fact that India has 700 plus colleges that are offering cybersecurity curriculum, specialized programs in cybersecurity. Now, clearly, this is not a volume-only problem, but there is also an alignment problem. And what's gone wrong? In my opinion, there's weak academia and industry alignment. Curriculum often lags behind behind from what employers need. So in particular, AI-driven cloud-based security skills are not necessarily the top of the skills that are developed through the academic institutions, and the industry needs that on day one. So there's a gap that is emerging from that. There's lack of trained faculty and infrastructure. Many institutions don't even have cybersecurity labs or cyber labs. They don't have simulated lab environments, attack environments. Faculty is not necessarily trained in emerging technology. There's sparse certification uptake, which basically means that professionals aren't necessarily taking the certifications that would have given them the depth in cybersecurity. What I've noticed is this is especially true when it comes to some of the early in career professionals. And finally, the threats are evolving very, very fast. When students are graduating, they're graduating with outdated knowledge, while attackers are evolving in real time through the use of AI, through the use of advanced malware technologies that they're creating. And that is evolving faster than we and our curriculum can keep up. So in my opinion, once again, to power the $1 trillion digital economy that we have, we need cyber defenders. And we need these cyber defenders that have two things. One, they're skilled and job ready on day one. They're not just certified. They don't have only theoretical knowledge, but we need them to be work ready. We need them to be hands-on, and we need them to be able to contribute to the workforce the day they graduate from colleges. Number two, AI aware. We need to be able to defend against the most modern and automated threats, and we need to leverage AI as a technology to be able to defend against AI threats. What I'm also optimistic about is, given the fact that the cybersecurity market in India is projected to grow at approximately 18% CAGR over the next 5 years, it will enable, with that security that we provide, growth in that digital infrastructure. But that also means that there are going to be thousands of roles that will open up. And we need to be able to fill these roles as they're emerging. The first step that I want to talk about in terms of bridging this gap that exists is to bring academia and industry closer together. I would love to see real-time collaboration, not just campus placement collaboration that happens between academia and industry at the moment. Now, when cybersecurity programs are shaped, I would love to see inputs coming from CISOs, security architects, SOC analysts, cybersecurity professionals, so that students, when they graduate, are job ready, they're not degree ready. And initiatives like SecureEd, which is something that we've driven as Palo Alto Networks, and I will talk about it in a few minutes, can help bridging some of these gaps or can help build the collaboration between academia and industry. I think we need to stop thinking about cybersecurity training and talent in theoretical terms only. We need to do a lot more of labs, red teaming exercises, capture the flag events, competitions, hackathons. All of these techniques should become a part of the key learning process while we're developing cybersecurity experts for the country. And our defenders need to train like they're ready and they're in the field and get some real life experience as they're going through these modules. This isn't just about students though. While I focused a little bit in my commentary on how students can evolve and how academic institutions can evolve, I personally believe that many experienced IT professionals also need to go through this reskilling into cybersecurity roles. There needs to be targeted upskilling, especially in areas like cloud security, AI security, incident response, threat hunting, etc. I think it's even important that non-IT professionals with an analytic thinking mindset can be trained as a governance risk and compliance officers or SOC supporters, compliance roles. The talent pool, quite frankly, is much broader than we think it is. We just need to make sure that we're enabling it in the right way to solve the problems that we're going to run into. And finally, I think every citizen needs more cybersecurity awareness as well. It's not just about professionals that are in the digital space, but everyone that is using the digital or is part of the digital economy needs to be cyber aware and needs more cybersecurity awareness. So let me talk to you a little bit about what we have done at Palo Alto Networks recently. Earlier this year in April, we hosted a program that we called SecureEd. It is our flagship cybersecurity faculty development program for India. I'm very proud that this was run over a span of 3 immersive days where we brought together faculty members from 40 plus leading educational institutions across 19 cities. And we had nearly 75 faculty members and faculty leaders within these organizations come and join us as part of this program. It was a combination of hands-on labs to deep dive technical real-world cyber threats. And we spoke about what some of the trends were that we were seeing, what some of the technologies are and how they're evolving. We had a lot of live demos and we had expert-led sessions where there was a clear goal. We wanted to equip our educators with the tools so that they can teach cutting-edge cybersecurity, not last year's curriculum, but emerging curriculum to the students. The program was inaugurated by none other than Mr. Vinayak Godse, who's the CEO of the SCI. He spoke very powerfully about what the faculty must do to be catalysts to enable this transformation. India's digital backbone depends on skilled defenders, but the skill starts in the classroom, and yet the faculty may not necessarily be ready to provide that skill or upskilling for our students. That's where having them get access to labs, having them get access to threat simulations, having them get updated knowledge in cybersecurity was one of the key objectives of what we tried to accomplish through the SecureEd program. And SecureEd was our way of bridging this gap between academia and the industry. By investing in our educators, I and we at Palo Alto truly believe that in turn, we will shape the next generation of cybersecurity professionals and defenders that we need. This, I believe, is just the beginning. With programs like SecureEd, Palo Alto Networks is also creating an ecosystem of empowered faculty, students, professionals, industry leaders that are aware of cybersecurity, are aware of what is changing in cybersecurity, are AI aware, and are able to be and contribute towards providing the cybersecurity that we as a country truly need. That's how I think we believe we build not just talent, but the trust for India's digital economy. And finally, this is what I want to leave you with. Whether you're an educator, you're a student, an IT professional, someone that's exploring a career in cybersecurity, each one of us in India has a role to play. Each one of us has a role to play in securing India's digital future. Let's train better. Let's teach smarter. Let's work together. Let's build a community to have cybersecurity talent to create a cybersecurity talent pipeline that India truly needs and can be proud of. A secure India isn't just a policy objective, isn't just something that needs to be done on paper. It's almost a national mission. And I think it starts with each one of us. And it starts with each one of us right now. Thank you very much. And Khushi, I'll hand it back to you at this stage.
Thank you so much, Kunal, for such an insightful presentation. I believe that your expertise on your perspectives and your opinions on this topic of cybersecurity skill gap has really been very insightful for our audience and for all our attendees. And we can also say that because we have received many interesting questions from their side, which you can also see in the question panel. I will read it out for you, all of them, because I think we have much time to take them one by one. So I'll go with the first question, which is what KPIs should CISOs and CEOs track to know their talent building investments are actually reducing risk and improving response times?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, right? So thank you, first of all, for asking me that question. Look, I think the best outcomes will be measured in terms of the business impact that we can deliver. It's not about just the number of hours of training that people go through. It's not just about how frequently people are being trained. And those are important measures. And you might want to put KPIs in place to ensure that you're periodically training the workforce and keeping them up to date with what is changing. But I think eventually you've got to tie the KPIs back to the outcomes from a security point of view for the organization. As soon as the outcomes and the KPIs match, whether you're delivering the outcomes that you want or not, you will have a good sense of whether you're continuing to keep your talent up to date and relevant so that they're resolving the challenges that companies will run into. So my recommendation would be that these KPIs should be tied to the KPIs that you would have as an organization. These KPIs need to deliver the security outcomes that you need to deliver. And mechanisms you want to put in place could be things such as how frequently are you keeping your workforce trained? How frequently are you keeping your workforce updated? Are there drills and simulation exercises that you're doing so that not when there is a real incident, but pre-real incident, you have a better responsiveness built into the organization, are mechanisms that we've used and I think people can use to provide that security that is required.
All right. Moving forward with the next question is, India aims to be a global digital powerhouse. How urgent is our cybersecurity skills shortfall, and which sectors, example, finance, telecom, critical infrastructure, are feeling it most acutely?
Yeah, and I think this question might have come up before we put the poll up, but once again, right, it's relevant. I think it's across sectors. Some sectors feel it more frequently than other sectors do. But again, the most unlikely sectors or the most unlikely places where you can have a cyber attack can actually be your weak point as well, right? So we have to think about cybersecurity across sectors and across all kinds of businesses. In the polls that we had put up, I mean, you saw that there was a high percentage of attacks that were happening in the healthcare sector or the finance sector, telco, etc. All of these are real sectors. I'll give you an example which is interesting, right? And this happened maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and this is not an example from India. But an establishment in the U.S. had a fish tank as an exhibit, and the fish tank had an IoT device that was connected to it, and hackers went in and broke somehow into the fish tank, and through that IoT device they went and breached data where they exfiltrated significant amount of data to a European country. Now, the fact is, nobody would have thought about, or very few people would have thought about securing a fish tank and as being an entry point for a cybersecurity attack, but that for a cyber attack. But that is truly what is happening, right? As more and more things are getting connected, as more and more IoT devices are coming on board, as we're digitally interlinked across systems, and a breach in one part of the infrastructure can very easily laterally be moved to a different part of the infrastructure, And that's where I think we need to protect across the entire infrastructure. So protecting across sectors, protecting across infrastructures, and not assuming that things are safe, but figuring out how you need to resolve and protect everything is the key to success over here.
Absolutely, Kunal. And moving forward with the next one, which is what are the top three factors driving India's cybersecurity talent gap today? And are they more about education, industry uptake, or the rapid evolution of attack techniques?
Yeah, if you were to put me on a spot and ask me to pick one of these, I would say that the evolution of the technology is so rapid that it is causing a gap in what we're experiencing. The rate at which technology is evolving is significant, and we are falling behind. Now, you can look at it as a negative, or you can look at that as an incredible opportunity, because the same rate at which this technology is being used by bad actors, we as the industry can start leveraging that technology to provide the cybersecurity to provide cybersecurity that is required. So while I believe that technology evolution and access to technology to the bad actors is a challenge, I think enabling and embracing technology advances on the good side can be a really good countermeasure that we can provide. Now, of course, education, training, enablement is all a part of what will drive us and lead us towards that final outcome. So we do need to focus on all of those things as we spoke.
Rightly, Kunal. And now Keval is asking that we lack a unified framework for measuring cyber skills. And what practical steps can industry and government take to establish standardized certification or competency benchmarks?
So there are a few standardized measures that do exist. There are a few certifications that exist. There are organizations that are building their own certifications. Now, again, cybersecurity is not one thing. Cybersecurity is a collection of multiple things that you need to get done, right? Whether it be securing your infrastructure, whether it be securing your networks, whether it be securing applications, securing data. Each one of these things may have a little bit of specialization and will need different types of certifications. So I think the number of certifications or what exactly is required may evolve. But I fundamentally also believe that in general, regulations lags technology advancement by a few years. So technology normally advances and then regulators define regulations that then catch up to the technology. I think we're going to see similar things within AI, cybersecurity, et cetera, as well. Regulations will keep emerging. There will be new regulations that will keep coming up, and we will have to evolve our standards to continue providing the benchmarks and providing the certifications that are necessary to be ready for what the evolution in technology is going to bring. So it's going to be an evolving path.
Correct, Kunal. Moving forward with the next one, which is even when we hire skilled professionals, retention can be a challenge. So, how can organizations build career paths and cultures that keep top cyber talent engaged for long term?
Yeah. So once again, thanks for asking this question, right? If I may, I'm going to answer this question slightly different in two parts, right? You haven't asked the second part, but I am going to try and answer that question in two parts. Um, given how the industry is evolving, and given how much the industry is changing, there is going to be churn in the workforce, and we will see it. Like no matter what you do, I mean, there will be, and we do want each one of us to have choices where people will work and get different experiences working with different organizations. I think the one thing that organizations should do is they need to document some of their standard cybersecurity practices. They need to help explain how certain things are done within the organization, what needs to be monitored, how the tools and technologies are working. And they need to keep that up to date so that if there is churn within the organization immediately is not compromised because of an individual leaving or because of a set of people leaving, right? There is a baseline that's established. There are standard practices that are there. There is good practices that are incorporated. And these are practices that evolve over time. So we need to establish that, and we need to have that relevant, and we need to have that be up to date at all points in time. I think the second thing that we need to do is, as cybersecurity is big, and now coming back to the specific question that was asked, right? I fundamentally believe that for high-performing individuals, for people that are excited about and optimistic about what technology can do, I don't think there's an industry that is more innovative than cybersecurity is in high tech today. If you want to be in the most innovative industry in high tech today, being in cybersecurity or learning cybersecurity skills, solving problems in cybersecurity, is going to challenge you, but is also going to be the most innovative, and it's going to be the most rewarding. And I think helping people understand that this is a space where you can truly innovate, learn, lead, be at the cutting edge of technology, embrace newness, and then solve problems, I think personally for me would be a truly gratifying proposition to make, so that people are excited to stay with the organizations and be with the organizations. And organizations specifically, instead of taking a cautious approach and saying we're not going to try something, embracing technologies, allowing people to use technologies and solve the right problems can be a motivating factor to keep employees within their teams.
Yes, rightly answered, Kunal. And definitely, these insights are really being very, informational and very useful for all of our attendees, because they are getting your personal insights on this level of expertise. Then Rajesh wants to ask that for the existing IT professionals eyeing the move into cybersecurity, what upskilling or reskilling pathways deliver the fastest and most sustainable results?
Yeah, and maybe I'll start with a slightly controversial answer. I'll say that when someone says they want to move into cybersecurity, I think we're missing the point a little bit. I think each one of us is in cybersecurity already, right? So in some ways, if you're in the technology profession, you need to start understanding cybersecurity and be in the cybersecurity space in some ways, right? Some of us need to do cybersecurity day in and day out. Some of us need to embrace cybersecurity to be aware of what we're building. But cybersecurity needs to become the foundation of anyone that's in technology in some ways. It's not an afterthought. It's something that needs to be part of how we build, how we develop, how we solve, how we resolve, all that kind of stuff. Now, if there is a shift that someone wants to make from being an infrastructure admin to being a cybersecurity admin, I think there are things that you can do in terms of just learning new things that are going on, understanding how SOCs work, understanding how operations need to be validated, understanding what some of the compliance regulations are, understanding what some of the standards are, experimenting with it, observing colleagues that are going through some of these transitions or working with them. Each one of these can be mechanisms that you can put in place. And especially for organizations in India, where, or if you think about some of the multinational organizations in India, I think we have a unique advantage where a large number of our centers have a combination of development engineering, operations in terms of IT, and cybersecurity organizations all co-located. And having all of these come together, sharing some of those learnings across these teams can be a pretty significant differentiation and advantage, so that we become better skilled at solving cybersecurity challenges. So I would take some of these steps to help explore more of a career in cybersecurity. And then if it's something that you really like, I mean, there's a lot more you can do to, in a formal way, get more of the training that is required to do the job well.
Absolutely. All right, moving towards the next question. Abhijit is asking that there are many people he knows who got certifications from popular courses like CISO, but still aren't able to land a job. Is this because enterprises fail to prioritize cybersecurity?
I really hope not, right? I really hope that enterprises are not failing to prioritize cybersecurity. And it's very cliched, but it's a saying in the cybersecurity industry that many people would have heard. It's not about if you are going to get breached, it's when you're going to get breached and what you need to do about it then, right? So the fact is, cybersecurity needs to be prioritized across each one of the organizations. As the examples that I gave, whether it be COVID-19 data, or it be data from a fish tank, or it be ransomware attacks, I think there are many, many different things that can go wrong. And if you don't prioritize cybersecurity as an organization, you are going to fall prey to these challenges at some point, right? I'm not quite sure how I can respond to the people haven't landed a job in spite of taking some of the training. But I do feel like prioritization of cybersecurity is critical, and if organizations are failing to do it, that's actually a scary thought.
Right, Kunal. And next question is by Rahul. He wants to ask that how should universities and training institutes redesign their curricula to keep pace with the real-world cyber defense needs? And can you share any successful models?
Yeah, I think I'm glad that you've asked me this, right? So again, with Secure Ed as a program that I talked about, I tried to, while I painted the overall picture in terms of what I see is happening in the industry, why cybersecurity is so critical, why the gaps are emerging. I tried to give an example with Secured as a specific program that we've run as Palo Alto Networks to try and bridge the gap between academia and industry. And through this program, just as an example, we have been able to help educators, professors, deans of universities get the latest information in cybersecurity, understand the trends, redesign or start working on redesigning their curriculum, give some input so that they can factor in the newness of what's happening in cybersecurity into what they're teaching the students, and then rebuild or update their curriculum so that it's much more relevant when students graduate from the degrees. So these are just examples. I believe that this program was exceptionally successful, but there's a lot more that needs to be done. And it's not about one organization that does it. I think we need to do this across the industry, and we need to do this at scale.
Right. All right, moving towards the next one. Mandeep wants to ask that, can you give any examples of successful partnerships between industry and academia in India that have produced job-ready cyber talent, and what made them work?
Yeah, and that's similar to what I just shared. Right? I mean, with the Secured program, I think this is one of those programs that we've run. Apart from this, there are other programs where we have cyber safety awareness that is shared across large populations, categories of populations. You know, we see that in certain cases, you will have certain populations that are more susceptible to cyber attacks, and what can we do about that? So I think there are certain things that we're doing, and all organizations will be working on, that will help drive the talent development as well as awareness. And again, specifically to Mandeep, your question, right? I mean, cyber secure ed was an example of something that we did to help bridge that gap. Students haven't graduated since then, but I'm fairly confident that based on what we've exchanged with the universities, there's going to be a significant improvement or a significant adjustment in some of what we've seen with the industry, with the academic institutions to build cyber-ready curriculum that is required.
Yes, Kunal. And with so many questions, I believe that you're also getting to know that all of our attendees, what all goes on when they are actually starting off and thinking of all these cybersecurity skill gaps that are facing. And I believe that moving forward with the next one, which is asked by Jay, he wants to ask that AI and ML can both empower attackers and defenders. How can organizations judiciously use these technologies to amplify a lean security team's effectiveness?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, and that's almost like a product question in some ways. As I said, right, I'm very optimistic that while, sorry, before I say that, right, I mean, AI in general is a very accessible technology, and it's amongst the fastest growing technology waves that we've probably ever seen, over our history. Now, while the bad actors have access to AI and they're creating things, good actors or organizations that are providing cybersecurity solutions can also leverage AI, ML, and build solutions that can solve these problems. We, for example, at Palo Alto Networks are building solutions which consumes vast amounts of data, very, very large amounts of data. We've got thousands of models that have been created that are synthesizing this data. This data and these models are learning real time based on all of the deployments and the millions of endpoints that we have from where, or data points that we have from where information is collected. And based on that, the efficacy of what gets identified and reported as a problem is significantly more than what it was just a few months ago or a few years ago. Not too long ago, a lot of this analysis had to be done manually with large cybersecurity teams. SOC, for example, the security operations centers, were very human-centered, used the human-centered design, which means that someone needed to sit in front of a SOC and independently make a decision on whether something was bad or not, and needed to take a corrective action on something that was going on. Those days will not work for us anymore. We need to design systems which truly bring together the power of AI, the power of ML, the power of deep learning, put it all together, come back with a response by looking through hundreds of indicators and coming back and saying, this is the root cause of what the challenge is. And when you deploy these products, when you build these products, when you utilize these products, it will lead towards more effective security teams. I prefer to term them as more effective rather than lean security teams, but it would lead to more effective security teams. And if you have a more effective security team, the same size team that you had today can then be used to do a lot more additional things to provide better security across the organization, whether it be drills, it be red teaming, it be building more solutions for the future, etc.
Right, Kunal. Moving forward with the next one, do you think is it a good way to obtain a cybersecurity certification cheaper because the cost of obtaining cybersecurity certification is expensive?
I'm not sure I followed the question. Sorry, I'm trying to, and I can see the question, so I'm just trying to read through it again.
Yeah. Is it a good way to obtain a cybersecurity certification cheaper because the cost of obtaining cybersecurity verification?
Well, so I'm not 100% sure I've followed the question, but what I can respond to this is that, look, I think cybersecurity training and cybersecurity certification is going to serve each and every one of us well. If there are certain things that you do to help build that cybersecurity training, it's going to help you do, no matter what you're doing, if you're in the technology space, better. And I would encourage people to do it.
Right, then let's move forward with the next one. Can you please tell more about if any programs are being offered through Palo Alto Networks for IT professionals outside of universities?
You can get through Palo Alto certifications, right? So there are certifications that are available. You can look at some of the online courses that we have. You can understand, what we do, and then there are certification or there are exams that you can take, and that gives you a certification to then practice and utilize and help customers that are using Palo Alto Networks as products. So you can certainly do that.
All right, let's just take the last two questions. We are having many questions, but let's just take the last two questions now. Is there any course or types of training that is required to upskill for cybersecurity?
And that's what I was responding to a little earlier as well. It's not one training. There are many aspects of cybersecurity that I think people need to consider. There is protecting the perimeter, that's protecting your environment, there's protecting your data, there's protecting your applications. There are SaaS applications, there are applications that are hosted and running in the cloud, whether it be public cloud or private cloud. There are users, there are mobile users, there are hybrid users, there are people that are remote and are working not from branch offices, are working from remote offices. All of these are different things that require slightly different deployments to solve cybersecurity challenges that you have. We also at Palo Alto Networks fundamentally believe that instead of having multiple products or multiple solutions that a lot of organizations have cutting across different point solutions, if you take a platform-centric approach, you have a better chance of providing better security and better outcomes for your organizations. So it's not about learning one type of cybersecurity, it's understanding what the environment is, it's learning about what a platform can do, it's learning about how you can solve for the problems when it comes to protecting your entire network or providing a cybersecurity operations center capabilities, and then figuring out which one you're more aligned to and getting some training or certifications in those areas. So it's across the spectrum, but there are many things that you can focus on and specialize in.
Right, Kunal. So finally, we have the last question, which is how do you see training people while working at different levels in cybersecurity?
How do you see training people while working? Okay, so essentially, I think the more you practice, the more you're a practitioner of cybersecurity, the more trained you will be, or the more advanced knowledge you will get. I think the best way to get trained is to get involved, is to be in it, to be hands-on, to experiment with your cybersecurity teams in your organizations or in your colleges or in your labs. And as you do it, I think there are skills that you pick up, there's more you learn, and then you enhance your skills. So that's how I would go about continuing to train at different levels. Having the basics, continuing to get better at it by practicing it, and continuing to get expertise in it by going through some of the certifications, which forces you to have the rigor, I think is a way of making that happen.
Yes, so a lot of questions, but all of them answered. So finally, thank you so much, Kunal, for really, sharing so many insights and letting us know your personal views on addressing India's cybersecurity skill gap on this topic. And this has really been an empowering and motivating session today. It was truly an absolute pleasure having you with us. And I would really like to thank you again for giving so many deep insights and your perspectives on this very topic.
And Kushi, once again, thank you very much for inviting me, to you and the TechGig team. But more importantly, thank you to the entire audience for joining us today. And also, I really do appreciate the questions. Hopefully, I was able to answer your questions, but thank you for your time and thank you for being at this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kunal. And I would also like to thank our audience for being such an enthusiastic audience one and also for the engagement. I think that it has been wonderful hosting the audience as well and this session as well. So thank you so much, Kunal, for making this session a successful one. And the session is recorded and will be published on the website, techgig.com. I would like to thank the audience, the participants. I would like to thank Kunal for hosting such a great session and Shohini for being up with us for cooperation. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much
for joining in.